ordinary girl became the daughter of the richest. The first thing Anaya ever owned was a pair of worn-out shoes with a small tear near the toe. When it rained, water slipped inside and kissed her feet with cold fingers. She used to pretend the dampness didn't bother her. She would walk home slowly through the muddy streets, watching other girls step into polished cars, their laughter carried away by tinted windows. Anaya had learned early that envy was a silent disease. It ate you quietly, without noise, without witnesses. She lived in a narrow alley where houses leaned against each other like tired old men. Her mother stitched clothes for neighbors. Her father worked wherever someone would offer him a day's wage. At night, the ceiling fan creaked above them, like it was complaining about their poverty. Study hard, her mother would whisper while brushing oil into Anaya's hair. Education is the only door we can afford to knock on. Anaya would nod, but deep inside she knew some doors were not meant to open for girls like her. At school, she kept her head down. Her uniform was always clean but faded. She was invisible, neither the prettiest nor the loudest, just ordinary. So painfully ordinary that sometimes she wondered if she even existed outside her reflection. Until the day the black cars arrived. No one had seen such cars in their neighborhood before. Shiny, expensive, out of place. The alley felt too small for them, like a poor man wearing a king's crown. Neighbors gathered outside. Curtains shifted. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who are they? Did someone win a lottery? Are they politicians? Anaya stood frozen at the doorway when a tall man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out of the first car. His hair was streaked with gray, his posture straight, his eyes unreadable. Behind him, a woman followed. Elegant, composed, wearing grief like invisible jewelry. Her father stepped forward nervously. "Can we help you?" The man looked at Anaya. Not past her. Not through her. At her. And something in his expression trembled. "Is her name Anaya?" he asked quietly. Her mother's hand tightened around Anaya's wrist. "Yes. Why?" The woman's eyes filled with tears, so quickly it startled everyone. She took a small step forward, her voice breaking. "Because she is our daughter." The alley fell silent. The world tilted. Anaya felt her heartbeat crash against her ribs. She laughed at first, a nervous, confused sound. "What?" The man removed his glasses slowly. 17 years ago, there was a fire at the hospital. Our newborn daughter was declared dead. His voice remained steady, but his hands betrayed him. They trembled slightly. Recent DNA evidence confirms there was a mix-up. Our daughter survived. Our mother shook her head violently. No. No, this is some mistake. The woman approached Anaya gently, as if she were afraid she might disappear. "We have searched for years. We never stopped." Anaya looked at her parents. The only parents she had ever known. Their faces were pale, terrified. "I don't understand," Anaya whispered. The suited man's voice softened. You were born into our family. The Malhotras. The name hit the air like thunder. Everyone knew the Malhotras, owners of companies, hotels, factories, the richest family in the city. Their name appeared in newspapers, on billboards, in charity galas broadcast on television. That world was galaxies away from her narrow alley. And yet they were saying she belonged to it. Her mother's grip loosened. Her father looked as if someone had stolen the ground beneath him. We raised her, her father said hoarsely. She is ours. The woman's tears fell freely now. And we lost her. Anaya felt like she was standing between two oceans, both pulling at her from opposite directions. That night, no one slept. Documents were shown, DNA results. Lawyers explained, voices overlapped, words blurred into noise. Biology, accident, inheritance, future, opportunity. Anaya sat in the corner of her small room, staring at the crack on the wall she had memorized since childhood. She touched it with her finger, tracing its familiar shape. If she left, would the crack remember her? Her mother entered quietly. She sat beside her and cupped Anaya's face. Listen to me, she whispered. You are our daughter. Nothing changes that. But they are my real parents. Anaya replied, her voice hollow. Her mother closed her eyes at that word. Real. Pain flickered across her face, quickly hidden. Blood does not feed a child. Love does. Anaya felt something inside her break. The next morning, the Malhotras returned. They didn't demand. They didn't force. They simply offered. A better education. A safer future. A life without struggle. Her father couldn't meet her eyes. Maybe this is what God wanted, he murmured. Anaya realized something devastating in that moment. Poverty teaches you to let go of what you love, if it promises survival. She packed her clothes in a small suitcase. It looked embarrassingly small, beside the luxury car waiting outside. Her mother folded each dress slowly, as if stretching time. Will you forget us? Her father asked quietly. Anaya shook her head, tears blurring everything. How can I forget my home? But even as she said it, fear crept in. What if the new world erased her? When she stepped into the car, the door closed with a soft, final sound. The alley grew smaller as they drove away. She watched her parents shrink in the rearview mirror, standing side by side, holding each other as if they had just buried something precious. Maybe they had. The Malhotra mansion rose before her like a palace from another universe. Marble floors, chandeliers, walls that echoed footsteps instead of swallowing them. Servants lined up at the entrance. Welcome home, the elegant woman whispered. Home. The word felt heavy. Foreign. Anaya stepped inside, her worn-out shoes touching polished marble for the first time. She suddenly became painfully aware of everything about herself. The way she walked, the way she spoke, the way she breathed. Ordinary girl. Richest family. Two identities colliding inside one fragile heart. At dinner, crystal glasses reflected her uncertain face. The suited man. Her biological father watched her carefully. "We have so much to catch up on," he said gently. Anaya nodded, but inside she screamed. Who am I now? In her new bedroom, bigger than her entire old house. She sat on the edge of a bed too soft to feel real. Silence filled the room. No creaking fan. No distant street vendors. No smell of her mother's cooking. Just quiet luxury. She opened her suitcase and pulled out the worn-out shoes. She placed them under the bed carefully, like a secret. Because she knew something no one else in that mansion understood. Becoming the daughter of the richest did not make her less the daughter of the poorest. And somewhere between those two truths, she began to disappear. She lay awake long after the lights of the mansion dimmed, staring at a ceiling painted with delicate gold patterns. The air conditioner hummed softly, steady and controlled, nothing like the erratic fan she had grown up listening to. The silence felt expensive. Too expensive. Anaya turned to her side and pressed her cheek against the pillow. It smelled faintly of lavender. Clean. Foreign. Not home. Home. Her chest tightened. She reached under the bed and pulled out the worn-out shoes again. She held them against her heart, as if they could anchor her to something real. The tear near the toe seemed larger now under the soft bedside lamp. Or maybe everything from her old life was shrinking inside this palace. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She quickly wiped her tears and placed the shoes back under the bed. The elegant woman stepped inside without waiting. She had changed into a simple silk robe, but even her simplicity carried wealth. I couldn't sleep, she said gently. May I sit? Anaya nodded. The woman sat at the edge of the bed, careful not to invade too much space. I know this is overwhelming. Overwhelming felt too small a word. It felt like drowning. I don't know what to call you, Anaya admitted quietly. The woman's eyes flickered with pain. You can call me whatever feels comfortable. Anaya swallowed. Auntie, she tried. The woman smiled softly, though disappointment briefly shadowed her face. That's okay. They sat in silence. I used to imagine this moment, the woman whispered after a while. Holding my daughter again. Watching her grow. Hearing her laugh. Anaya felt the guilt crawl up her spine. I had parents, she said carefully. I know, the woman replied quickly. And I am grateful to them. They loved you when we couldn't. Anaya's throat burned. They still love me. And so do we. The words collided in her chest, leaving bruises. The next morning, everything moved fast. Designers arrived to measure her. A stylist examined her hair. A tutor discussed her academic records. An assistant handed her a new phone. Her old phone, cracked at the corner, was quietly taken away. From now on, security will accompany you to school, her biological father said during breakfast. Security? Anaya repeated. Yes, it's necessary. Necessary. The word felt like a cage disguised as protection. When she stepped outside later that day, she noticed the gates. Tall, imposing, guarded. The mansion wasn't just luxurious. It was isolated. Inside, she was the daughter of the richest. Outside, she was a headline waiting to happen. At school, whispers followed her like shadows. That's her? The Malhotra's lost daughter. Imagine that luck. Luck. Anaya wanted to scream. No one saw the way her hands trembled when she entered her classroom. No one noticed how her friends avoided eye contact. Sana, her closest friend since childhood, stood by the lockers. Their eyes met. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then Sana looked away. Anaya approached slowly. You didn't reply to my messages. Asena forced a smile. You're busy now. I'm not. You have bodyguards. Sana interrupted softly. You don't need us. The words pierced deeper than intended. I still need you. Anaya whispered. But Sana had already stepped back. Anaya understood then. Wealth didn't just elevate you. It separated you. That evening, a grand dinner was organized in her honor. Business partners. Influential guests. Flashing cameras outside the gates. She wore a pale gold dress chosen for her. It hugged her frame perfectly, as if designed to erase every trace of her old self. Smile, her biological mother whispered as they descended the staircase. Anaya smiled. Flash, flash, flash. Her eyes stung under the lights. A reporter shouted, How does it feel to finally live the life you deserve? Deserve. The word echoed inside her like an accusation. At the dinner table, conversations flowed about investments and expansions. Someone asked her about her future plans. I want to study literature, she said hesitantly. Her biological father paused slightly. Business management would be more practical. The table hummed in agreement. Anaya lowered her gaze. Even her dreams felt small here. Later that night, she stood on the balcony alone. The city glittered beneath her, unaware of the war inside her chest. Footsteps approached. It was him, Arjun Malhotra, her biological brother. Tall, composed, 2 years older. The heir everyone had always known. He leaned against the railing beside her. They're suffocating you, aren't they? She glanced at him, surprised. He gave a small, humorless laugh. They suffocated me too. You don't look suffocated. That's because I learned to stop breathing. His words settled heavily between them. I didn't ask for this, Anaya whispered. Neither did I, he replied. She studied him carefully. For the first time, she saw something beyond his polished exterior. Loneliness, pressure, exhaustion. Do you hate me? She asked softly. Arjun shook his head. You're not the enemy. Expectations are. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. I miss my parents, she admitted. He didn't correct her use of the word. You can visit them, he said quietly. Can I? She asked, hope flickering. He hesitated. It will be complicated. Complicated. Everything here was complicated. Days turned into weeks. Her old neighborhood felt further away each morning. Her biological parents tried. They truly did. They took her shopping. They arranged private dinners. They spoke gently, carefully. But love felt rehearsed. She started noticing small things. The way servants lowered their eyes when she spoke. The way her biological father's tone sharpened when she made mistakes. The way her mother flinched whenever Anaya mentioned her old home. One evening, she overheard a conversation behind a half-closed door. "We need to control the narrative," her father was saying. Her background must be refined. Refined. Like she was a rough stone needing polish. And her visits, her mother asked. Limited. Media could twist it. Anaya stepped back slowly, heart pounding. So even her love had a schedule. That night, she called her old home from the new phone. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Anaya?" The sound of her voice shattered something inside her. "Ami." Anaya whispered, tears spilling freely now. There was silence on the other end. Thick and emotional. "Are you eating well?" her mother asked. Anaya almost laughed. Of course, that would be her first concern. "Yes." "Are they treating you kindly?" Anaya looked around her luxurious room. Kindness wasn't the issue. "I don't know," she admitted. Her mother's voice trembled slightly. "You can always come back." A comeback. The words felt like oxygen. But Anaya knew something her mother didn't. Going back would mean choosing. And choosing would break someone. She ended the call and slid down against the wall, hugging her knees. Ordinary girl. Richest daughter. Somewhere in between, her heart was splitting quietly, without witnesses. She did not sleep that night. The words "you can always come back" echoed inside her, like a fragile promise, glowing softly in the dark. She sat by the window until dawn painted the sky in pale gray, wondering how a person could belong to two worlds and still feel homeless. By morning, the mansion had already awakened. Footsteps in the corridor. The faint clinking of dishes downstairs. A life running on schedule. Anaya washed her face and studied herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked different now. The expensive skincare products arranged neatly on the counter. The silk robe. The gold-framed mirror. But her eyes were still the same. Unsure. Searching. At breakfast. Her biological father was reading the newspaper. Her picture was printed on the front page of the society column. The lost heiress returns. She stared at the headline while sipping her tea. "I've arranged for you to start attending public events with us regularly," he said without looking up. "It's important people see unity." A unity. As if they were a company merging departments. "I have exams," Anaya said quietly. "You'll have tutors," he replied. "This is more important." The more important than what? Her education. Her peace. She nodded anyway. Across the table, her biological mother watched her carefully. "You look tired." "I'm fine." But she wasn't. That afternoon, a stylist arrived again. Another event. Another gown. Another smile to practice. You must carry yourself confidently, the stylist instructed, adjusting the fabric around her shoulders. You are a Malhotra. The words pressed against her ribs. You are a Malhotra. But what about Anaya from the alley? The girl who shared her lunch with Sana. The girl who counted coins before buying notebooks. Was she slowly being erased? That evening, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polished laughter. Music floated through the air. People approached her one by one. So graceful. Such poise. Ah, you truly belong. Belong. She smiled until her cheeks hurt. In a corner of the hall, she noticed Arjun watching her. Not with pride. With understanding. When the speeches began, her father stepped onto the stage. Tonight, he announced, we celebrate not only family but destiny. Our daughter has returned to us. Applause filled the room. Anaya's palms felt cold. He extended his hand toward her. Anaya, come. She walked to the stage, each step heavy. Under the spotlight, she felt exposed, vulnerable, like a sculpture being presented to an audience. Say something, her father whispered. She looked at the sea of faces. All strangers. I'm grateful, she began softly, for the opportunity to know my biological family. Biological. A subtle shift moved through the crowd. She swallowed. But I also want to say, the family who raised me, they are not a mistake. Silence fell. Her father's jaw tightened almost invisibly. They loved me when no one else knew I existed. She continued, voice trembling but steady. And I will always honor them. The applause was hesitant this time. Later, in the car ride home, the silence was suffocating. That was unnecessary, her father said finally. What was? Drawing attention to them. Who them? They are my parents, Anaya replied. He looked at her sharply. We are your parents. The words felt like a command. You can't divide loyalty, he added. It weakens perception. Perception. She turned to the window, watching the city lights blur. I'm not a brand, she whispered. He didn't respond. Back at the mansion, she went straight to her room. Her chest felt tight, like something was pressing down on it. A soft knock came again. Arjun entered without waiting. You were brave, he said quietly. As I? She asked bitterly. It didn't feel like bravery. It felt like a mistake. He sat across from her. Feather cares about image more than emotion. And you? She asked. He smiled faintly. I stopped caring about both. She studied him carefully. Does it get easier? No, he answered honestly. You just get better at pretending. Pretending. Anaya lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling again. I feel guilty all the time, she confessed. When I miss my old home, I feel guilty toward this one. When I try to adjust here, I feel like I'm betraying them. Arjun was quiet for a long moment. You're not betraying anyone, he said finally. You're just grieving. Grieving what? The life you lost. She had never thought of it that way. She wasn't just gaining wealth. She had lost something too. The simplicity. The laughter without pressure. The small kitchen filled with her mother's voice. Tears slid down her temples into her hair. Days later, she finally convinced her biological mother to let her visit her old neighborhood. No media, her mother insisted. No photographs. Anaya agreed immediately. When the car stopped at the entrance of the alley, she felt her heart race, the way it used to before school exams. She stepped out slowly. The alley hadn't changed. Children still played barefoot. Vendors still shouted. The houses still leaned against each other. Her mother saw her first. She ran forward, wrapping her arms around her tightly. No hesitation. No caution. Just love. Anaya buried her face in her shoulder and inhaled deeply. Home. Her father stood nearby, smiling softly, though his eyes looked older somehow. You look thin. Her mother scolded gently. Are they not feeding you? Anaya laughed through tears. Inside the small house, everything felt smaller than she remembered. But warmer. She sat on the old mattress. The ceiling fan creaked again. And for the first time in weeks, she breathed freely. I can come back, right? She asked quietly. Her parents exchanged a glance. You can visit anytime, her father said carefully. Visit. The word stabbed. I mean, come back, she clarified. Silence stretched between them. Her mother held her hand. Your life is different now. So we cannot give you what they can. Anaya felt the familiar ache. I don't want what they can give, she whispered. Her father's eyes filled with tears. But we want you to have it. She realized something devastating in that moment. Love sometimes pushes you away, so you can fly higher, even if it means watching you disappear into the sky. When she returned to the mansion that night, she carried something heavy inside her. Not confusion, not guilt, a realization. She belonged to both worlds, and neither would ever fully accept that. As she lay in her oversized bed once more, she stared into the darkness and finally understood the cruel truth. Becoming the daughter of the richest had not changed who she was. It had only made her loneliness more expensive. It had only made her loneliness more expensive. The days after her visit to the alley felt sharper, as if every polished surface in the mansion had grown edges. She moved through the halls like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. Servants still greeted her with respectful nods, but now she noticed the distance in their eyes. Not disrespect, not warmth either. Just awareness. She was the lost daughter, the recovered asset, the story that increased the family's emotional value. At dinner one evening, her father cleared his throat. There is an announcement next week, he said. A major partnership. International investors. You will attend. Anaya set down her fork. I have midterms. You have tutors, he repeated calmly. I can't keep missing school. His gaze hardened slightly. You are not ordinary anymore, Anaya. The word hit her harder than he intended. Not ordinary. As if ordinary had been something shameful. She swallowed. I never wanted to stop being ordinary. A heavy silence followed. Her mother intervened gently. Your father only wants what is best. Best. Best for whom? That night, Anaya opened her school books but couldn't focus. Her mind drifted to Sana. To the way her friend had stepped back near the lockers. To the space that had quietly grown between them. On impulse, she picked up her phone and typed a message. Can we meet? Just us. The reply came minutes later. Where? Your guards might scare the tea seller away. Anaya almost smiled. The next afternoon, she told security she needed privacy. They followed from a distance anyway. She met Sana at a small cafe near the school. Plastic chairs. Faded walls. The smell of cardamom tea. Sana looked the same. Simple braid. Ink stain on her fingers. But her eyes carried something new. Distance. You look different? Sana said after a long pause. So do you? Anaya replied softly. Sana gave a short laugh. No, I don't. They sat in awkward silence until the tea arrived. I didn't choose this, Anaya whispered. I know, Sana said quickly. But you still got it. The words weren't cruel. Just honest. I miss you, Anaya admitted. Sana looked down at her cup. It's hard to miss someone who's always in the news. Anaya's chest tightened. I'm still me. Are you? Sana asked gently. The question lingered between them. Anaya searched for an answer, but found only uncertainty. Before leaving, Sana touched her hand briefly. Just don't forget where you learned to dream. Anaya walked back to the car, feeling both comforted and wounded. Back at the mansion, preparations for the announcement were in full motion. Stylists, event planners, publicists. Arjun stood by the staircase, watching the chaos. They're turning you into a symbol, he said quietly. I don't want to be a symbol. No one ever does. Why don't you fight back? She asked suddenly. He smiled faintly. Because I tried. And I lost. Lost what? Myself? He answered before she could ask. That evening, she found her biological mother alone in the sitting room. Can I ask you something? Anaya said carefully. Of course. If I had never been found, would you have survived? The question startled her mother. She took a deep breath. No, she admitted. A part of me never did. Anaya sat beside her. And if I leave now? Her mother's hand froze mid-air. Leave? She repeated softly. I'm just asking. With tears filled her mother's eyes instantly. Don't punish us for losing you once. Punish. Anaya felt the weight of expectations press down again. I'm not trying to punish anyone, she whispered. I just don't know how to breathe here. Her mother held her tightly. You will adjust. Adjust. Like furniture in a new room. The night of the announcement arrived. The hall was larger than the previous event. Brighter. Louder. Cameras flashing like lightning. Anaya stood beside her father as he introduced the partnership. Applause erupted. Then he placed a hand on her shoulder. And soon, he declared, "My daughter will begin taking an active role in our foundation. She will represent the next generation." Her heart dropped. This hadn't been discussed. The crowd cheered. She forced a smile. Later, in the privacy of the car, she turned to him. "You didn't tell me." "It was implied," he replied calmly. "I don't want to represent anything yet. You will grow into it. I don't want to grow into something I didn't choose." His patience thinned. "You are part of this family. With privilege comes responsibility." And with responsibility, she shot back, comes consent. The driver's eyes flickered nervously in the mirror. Her father's voice lowered. "Be careful, Anaya." She looked at him steadily. "Off what?" "Being honest." The rest of the ride passed in silence. In her room, she felt something inside her finally crack. Not a loud shatter. A quiet, irreversible fracture. She pulled out the worn-out shoes again. She held them in her lap and cried. Not the restrained tears she had learned to shed quietly, but deep, shaking sobs that left her breathless. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered into the empty room. A soft knock came. Arjun. He saw the shoes immediately. "You keep those?" he asked gently. "They remind me," she said. "Of what?" "That I existed before all this." He stepped closer. "You still exist." "Do I?" she asked, eyes red. "Or am I just their redemption story?" He didn't answer right away. "They love you," he said finally. "I know," she replied. "But love shouldn't feel like a contract." Silence stretched. "Then what will you do?" he asked. She looked down at the shoes. For the first time, a thought formed clearly. "I need to choose," she said softly. "Choose what?" "Myself." The word felt terrifying, but also freeing. Outside her window, the city glittered again. Inside her chest, a decision was slowly, painfully being born. Inside her chest, a decision was slowly, painfully being born. She did not act on it immediately. For days, she carried it quietly. Like a fragile flame, she was afraid the wind would extinguish. She attended meetings. She smiled for photographs. She listened as her father discussed expansion plans, and her mother arranged charity luncheons in her name. But something had shifted. She was no longer drowning. She was observing. One evening, after another dinner where her future had been casually planned without her voice included, she stood up from the table. "I need to say something," she said calmly. Her father looked up, surprised by the steadiness in her tone. Her mother's fingers tightened around her napkin. Arjun leaned back slightly, watching. "I am grateful for everything you've given me," Anaya began. "The education, the comfort, the opportunities." Her father nodded faintly. "But I cannot be molded into a version of me that fits your expectations," she continued. "I won't take over businesses I don't understand. I won't stand on stages and smile, as if I don't have a history. Silence filled the room like smoke. Her father's expression hardened. You are speaking emotionally. No, she replied softly. I am speaking honestly. Her mother's voice trembled. We only want you close. And I don't want to leave you, Anaya said, her own voice shaking now. But I cannot stay here and disappear. The word lingered. Disappear? Her father stood slowly. So what are you saying? She took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. I want to study literature, not business. I want to attend university like a normal student. Without headlines. Without bodyguards following me into classrooms. That's impossible, he said immediately. Why? She asked gently. Because people will talk? They already do. It's not safe. Neither is losing yourself, she replied. The words struck deeper than she expected. Her mother began to cry quietly. You think we're suffocating you, she whispered. Anaya crossed the room and knelt beside her. I think you're afraid of losing me again. Her mother's tears fell faster. I was gone once, Anaya said softly. But I'm here now, and I will still be here, even if I don't live inside these walls. Her father turned away, jaw tight. I cannot pretend to be something I'm not, she added. Not even for you. That night, no one argued further. The mansion felt unusually silent. In her room, Anaya packed a suitcase again. This time, it wasn't small. And it wasn't rushed. She folded her new clothes beside her old ones. She placed the worn-out shoes carefully on top. Arjun appeared at her doorway. You're really doing it, he said. Yes. Where will you go? I applied to a university in another city weeks ago. She admitted. I didn't know if I'd have the courage. And now I do. He studied her for a long moment. I envy you, he said quietly. You could choose too, she replied. He smiled faintly. Not yet, as she stepped forward and hugged him tightly. Don't stop breathing, she whispered. He let out a soft laugh that sounded almost broken. The next morning, her parents were waiting in the living room. Her suitcase stood beside her. Her mother approached first, cupping her face the way she had on the first night. Will you visit? She asked through tears. Yes, Anaya promised. Her father stood stiffly at a distance. She walked toward him. I am not rejecting you, she said softly. I am choosing myself. His eyes glistened, though he tried to hide it. You are stubborn, he muttered. She smiled faintly. I wonder where I got that from. For a second, the corner of his mouth lifted. Then he pulled her into a brief, tight embrace. Make something meaningful, he said quietly. Not just sentimental. She nodded. When she stepped outside the gates, there were no cameras this time. No headlines. Just a car waiting to take her to the train station. As the mansion disappeared behind her, she didn't feel the tearing she had expected. She felt balance. At the station, she stood alone for the first time in months. No guards. No flashing lights. Just the hum of people moving through their ordinary lives. She called her old home. Amy. Yes, Beta? I'm leaving the city. A pause? Are you coming back? I'm not going back, Anaya said gently. I'm moving forward. Her mother's voice softened. That's all we ever wanted. Anaya closed her eyes. For the first time, the guilt loosened its grip. The train arrived with a loud metallic sigh. She stepped inside and found a seat by the window. As the city began to move past her, she placed the worn-out shoes on the empty seat beside her. She looked at them, and then at her reflection in the glass. Ordinary girl. Daughter of the richest. Neither title defined her anymore. She was simply Anaya. A girl who had been lost, found, and brave enough to choose her own path. Tears slid down her cheeks. But they felt different now. Not of helplessness. Of release. The train carried her toward a future that did not glitter like chandeliers or echo, like marble halls. It felt uncertain. Real, and entirely hers. And somewhere between the alley and the mansion, between poverty and privilege, between blood and love, she finally stopped disappearing. She began to exist.